9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Am I counting? Oh, okay. All right, maybe I count 10. Great, whatever it is, we've got quorums. That's fabulous. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I'm very excited about today. Apologies for not being present last session. I had a health procedure, so that's done, and I'm so happy to be back with you guys today. Very quickly, we're going to do a review and approval of minutes. So if you had a chance to take a look at the minutes that Barbara sent last week, please let me know if you've got any edits or changes or anything to say. For those of you all who maybe are not getting Barbara's emails, did you see it?
I confirm that I did not.
Okay, so Dan is not getting your emails, Barbara. So it says Barbara Gunlardy. I guess no one else is nodding their heads or worrying about this, so everybody else seems to be getting the information. Typically, you can imagine anticipate to get an email from her a week before the meeting that announces it and also has last month's minutes and the agenda for the future one. And you can RSVP then, which is really helpful for us just to know where we're going to be with quorum. Okay, great. Then can I get a motion to approve the minutes if we have any discussion or anything that needs to happen with the minutes?
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Great. Any against or abstentions? Okay, fabulous. Then the minutes are approved and we can move on. All right, financial update. Barbara has been busy with a bunch of stuff today, so we don't necessarily have the packets in front of us, but they are quickly passing them out. I'm moving very fast, so I apologize for that. Typically, there's not a ton that goes on here, but there was an update today. I don't know if we want to get into that. Briefly go over it. Okay, go ahead, Davey.
Yes, our budget that was approved for approximately $740 some odd $1,000 with 2 new positions, a full-time Title VI compliance officer and a half-time person. We've been working since the passage of the budget to convert the part-time person into a full-time person, and we were advised today that our budget may possibly be cut $10,000 by, what is that? The Planned Parenthood is to get a $500,000 grant from Metro, and they've put out where they're going to take it from in the existing budget, and $10,000 of that would come from our budget. We've received notice from the person at finance that we've been working for that would possibly cancel our ability to convert the half-time into a full-time. What we've done is we've cut back on the number of sponsorships and the amount of the amounts that we give to various sponsorships. We were already committed this past weekend to the Celebrate Nashville, that we are part of that every year. We're part of Tennessee Human Rights Day and International Human Rights Day, and we support these events. So hopefully we will have some grace tonight in that the committee is meeting to consider that today at 5, and it will be on the council for a vote tomorrow. So hopefully we'll be able to move forward with that.
Okay, yeah, I hope that with as small a budget as ours, every $1,000 counts. So 10 is a lot. So I hope we can find a way out of this while supporting an important cause. Okay, are there any other questions on the financial update? I mean, again, it's business as usual. It's the same, nothing big or new here.
If we were going to make a press, if we were going to press, who are the people to call in this moment?
Yeah, I think you can coordinate that with Davey.
What's that? What was the question?
In terms of
who to call and bug about this, if we can put a bug in somebody's ear.
The first person would be your council person. I've contacted a couple of the commissioners today who did do just that, and I think if it gets turned around, it'll be because of the calls from the commissioners, along with others for that. Yes, so yes, that will help. I guess the sound is not working.
It is not.
It just as a matter of, everybody doesn't have a name tag yet, but it looks like she's passing them out. Typically, to be recognized, one would turn their name tag sideways, and then the chair would recognize you, and that would make it a lot more efficient on her.
Yes,
so like when you want to talk, just turn it 90 degrees. I think it'd be 90.
Okay, great. This also falls in line with, I think, Director Tucker mentioned that we all should get to connect with our council members in general and just say, hey, I did the same. I'm trying to set up a coffee with mine just to introduce myself, and it's just a great practice to do. But Ariel, you wanted to speak? Demonstrating, thank you. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so on that update, I think we move forward to a quick update, or I believe it's quick, but we'll see, a Title VI update about outside counsel from Davey.
Yes, we're still in that process of trying to determine who pays for that. And so that's basically the update that we have. In the Title VI complaints, Metro Legal, and Derek May could voice it in a way that makes a little bit more sense than me, in that their goal is to protect Metro, and ours is to try to be a non-biased arbiter, conciliator, which often puts us at odds with Metro. So there is a process for outside counsel. We're just trying to, again, with our budget constraints that we have, that, as I just said, we will not be able to turn a half-time position into a full-time. There's no need of us we don't have money to pay for outside counsel. So we're looking at other ways to possibly get that done. Is there something you can add to that?
Just that Metro Legal, like, my role will not change as representing this board and so forth. I'm walled off from your proceedings or involvement with the MHRCs. I think they're currently at the investigation stage of a couple of complaints that have been made by Metro employees against Metro. Other attorneys in our office are currently assigned to represent MHRC in those matters, but you have the, as Director Tucker alluded to, when Metro is a party, you may request the engagement of outside counsel, which has been done. Currently, though, departments, when they have an opportunity to engage outside counsel, it comes out of their budget. I'm not clear on what other paths may be being explored. I'm not here to offer any opinions on that, but that's where that currently lies. And I also am involved in trying to resolve those disputes at a different level, but not contrary to the different interests of this board or the claimants in those matters. But in any event, it's not a have to, but it is the prerogative to engage outside counsel. But I think the only thing I can say is I don't want you to have confidence that I can't represent this board, and advise you all as to matters that take place at this meeting, and working with Director Tucker on other matters for the Human Relations Committee.
And if that is a thought, I just want to dissuade that totally. This is just this individual situation doesn't even speak to Derek. It's just the direction is not often the direction Metro wants to go. And as a commission, we want to have some level of integrity for the claimants that come to us. And to have counsel with Metro, to me, is not a wise thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to call on Charles.
So 2 questions. One, how often do we find ourselves, or do you find yourself at odds with how Metro wants to handle the claim? And then 2, do we not include I guess, council fees as part of the original budget, or could that be able to be done going forward, that there be an allocation or an inclusion for potential outside council fees going forward?
Normally, to answer your first question, Commissioner, normally we work stuff out. But we have two now where what the claimants are asking for and certain admissions that would have to be made, I guess, to justify what the claimants are asking for, that's just not feasible. The second part is on the green sheet, which is not the total budget. This is just for the year. Our budget, if you look at it, is less than $750,000, and we typically spend all of it. We have struggled to grow this organization. Even when I was on the commission and even as serving as chair, the inability to grow the staff to be able to adequately address the work has been an ongoing challenge. So to just grow the staff to do the work doesn't even address the peripheral interest of, say, an account or a line item for outside counsel. So I don't know, does that kind of answer?
It does.
Okay.
Erwin.
So I guess in the time that I've been on the commission, I don't recall there being any matter that came before the commission on the basis of a discrimination complaint. So I guess I'm not very clear on what that process would be, and I'm also not very clear on what the role of counsel would be in that situation with respect to counsel for the commission. On the one hand, there might be a question of whether or not counsel for the commission is actually presenting the complaint on behalf of the employee. On the other hand, counsel for the commission may be limited to addressing legal issues that come up in the context of a hearing, such as whether certain evidence is admissible or things along those lines. And I think those are important to understand in terms of whether the commission needs separate counsel. So I think it would be very helpful if we had some clear information about exactly how the commission handles complaints of discrimination that are brought to the commission's attention and are not able to be reconciled. I will say something else, too, which comes in the context of my serving as counsel to the Tennessee Human Rights Commission in the recent past, and I was just briefly looking through the provisions in the code about how those issues even get to the commission. And I will say that there was a fairly robust dispute before the Tennessee Rights Commission about what the role of staff was in making determinations that there were matters that were even able to come before the commission. So I think it would be very helpful for us to get some clear guidance as to how complaints that are brought to the commission by employees of Metro are processed and what the role of the commission is in dealing with those. And then that, I think, would also lead to a clearer understanding about what kind of counsel the commission needs.
Well, I don't know if you've read the bylaws. Okay.
That's what I was just reading.
And the code also kind of outlines. Typically what happens is, I can't remember from my 5 years on the commission of something actually turning into a Title VI complaint. Most of the time it's a reach out, it's a conversation, it's a letter, and we end up putting two parties together and it gets resolved. Barbara has done that probably since May 3 times already in situations that could have turned into something that it didn't. These two situations with Metro Arts and Metro Health have turned into ones where now our job is to move toward and go through the process of first meeting with the parties, seeing if the complainant and the party will say that particularly the party would say that there's something credible about it. If it is, how can MHRC mediate and conciliate toward an agreement? There have been demands made in these two cases, and some of the demands are actually monetary. And so how do we, as non-lawyers, give adequate counsel to a claimant that we're trying to play the middle road, and what should our position be? I made the determination to seek the outside counsel to make sure that we're doing our job to be the mediator, conciliator in these complaints. So if we need to get together and talk about that, we're scheduling some executive committee meetings.
Well, let me give you an example, I think, where the issue came up before the Tennessee Human Rights Commission. And I'm looking now at the I think these are the bylaws. I'm looking at the code, actually. And under the code, where it talks about matters that are brought before a complaint, it talks about the commission making a determination of probable cause. The issue that came before the Tennessee Human Rights Commission is whether the use of the word commission meant the entire commission or whether it meant the executive director. So I think that some clarification on exactly how that works would be worthwhile to explore.
Well, and I would agree with that. And what I would ask the chair to do, that if that's something that you'd like to pursue, that the chair would form a committee to review that and come up with what that might look like. But there's a distinction here, too. If you read our bylaws and read the Metro Code, it says about investigating whatever of discrimination, whether in housing or whatever. That's not speaking to Title VI, which is something totally different. Normally, folks with employees show up. It's just the discrimination thing. There's not a Title VI claim that is made. And so here, what I think is different, Commissioner Vinnick, is that these are actually two filed Title VI complaints, whereas we just mediated an incident a month or so ago with two juvenile court employees where one had made a charge of discrimination, which was not a Title VI thing. That has been mediated, signed off on, everybody's happy, and the court is happy. So I think if you do that, you're going to have to break it down with that level of specificity.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but I'm just saying, I mean, there are lots of moving parts here, and just briefly looking through the bylaws and the code, I don't see anything where it says the commission has the authority to award affirmative relief.
No.
No, I understand. I'm just saying that, because you mentioned that these individuals are making claims of, that require monetary relief. So I think we need to be clear in our minds what the limits of our function is and how we go about doing that.
Well, according to the bylaws, our job is to mediate up until a point we can't. Then we would do an investigation. We've already reached out. I have a letter from the district attorney who's agreed to do an investigation if one is needed on our behalf. From there, the chair would have to set up a committee that would actually be the hearing committee to get to the points that you're talking about. And so at that point, to coin a phrase, that's over my pay grade. And we're not even to the investigation point. We're trying to mediate this at this point without actually having a third-party investigation, which from there, based on those findings, which would be presented here, you would set up, the chair would set up a hearing panel, a hearing committee that would actually conduct the hearing and would actually actually make those findings. So that's when we can't mediate or conciliate. And I've not been in that, even as a commissioner. We have never had a impaneled hearing commission before, or committee rather.
I think what would be useful is to go over this in the executive committee meeting, and also talk about the steps of this ad hoc committee that would be formed. It's just that we haven't come to that step yet. We haven't needed to do that yet, but that is something that would be necessary if whatever steps have been taken thus far have not resolved the issue. And I'm aware of that and ready to do that whenever we need to, but we're not there yet. Does that sound good to you, Erwin?
I just want to know what I'm doing and how we're getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we can do is, come up with a sort of presentation or depiction of the process as we understand it. Davey has done a lot of work with Metro Council and Metro Council and the other departments that are involved, and I think has enough background knowledge on this that we can kind of delineate a clear.
Yeah, we can do that. I'd have no problem doing that, because what I would use would be my understanding of the code and the bylaws as it's written out in some type of systematic way.
Okay.
And then I think, too, pulling on Derek to make sure that my interpretation of that stuff is correct.
Which has been done along the way, almost every step. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's just a request for kind of a recap of all that, perhaps when you have a bit more preparation for that. Okay, on that, and thank you, Erwin, for that. I think we'll move on to this, what's called the East Bank discussion, but I would like to call it the Equitable Development discussion. And I'm just going to switch positions so I can do it from over there so Barbara's not stuck guessing when I want her to progress on the presentation. So 1 second. Okay, here we are. Okay, I just, the East Back has come up quite a bit, and as I was reviewing the materials and everything, I thought, as a commission that worries and concerns itself with the equity and dignity of Nashvillians, this seems like an important moment to talk about equitable development. It's come up several times in the last 3 years that I've been on the commission. We had economists, we've had researchers, we've had various people come here and talk to us about all the issues. So I just thought I'd do a somewhat comprehensive borrowed data. None of this is my original anything, so I just want to put that out there. Presentation on this. So I'm going to do this hopefully very quickly. I'm looking at my time so that I don't take up too much, but we've done well so far. And I'll end up with the discussion, not a discussion, but mostly kind of the example or case of the East Bank. So Metro and equitable development. These are basic stats that a lot of us already know. If you read the Tennessee and Nashville scene, you're kind of smacked in the face with these regularly. But just to recap, things don't look very good depending on where you live, how much you make, your background, etc. So some of these stats are pretty remarkable. This all comes from this very humble, amazing research from the Community Needs Evaluation. It's a great report that comes out annually, funded by Metro. I find it like a gem of resources when we don't have tons of research in this city on things. So, and all the links are at the end of the presentation, so those are there. But these are some important things. One of the most shocking statements on this page is about more and better education of local students will not eliminate or reduce poverty wage occupations in Nashville. When I first read this in that report, I was like, what are you guys talking about? When I spoke to them more in depth, what they're saying is that these poverty wage jobs are here, and they don't give anyone a trajectory of a sustainable livelihood, but they are filled over and over and over again. And so they're not a way out for anyone that maybe is low education, maybe is stuck in a poverty cycle. And so really looking at, what we do about people that are stuck in these poverty wage jobs. So just a really breakdown of living wage. This shocked me, even though I read it every time. This is what it's supposedly supposed to cost to live in Nashville. I find that absolutely impossible. If you have 2 children, that you can live off $35 an hour, and many do. So that's just where these numbers are coming from, but they, in my opinion, are grossly underestimating what it costs to be in this city. Now, this is not really specific to Nashville. Honestly, we're seeing these changes, these challenges throughout the country. A lot of these cities that are developing, not the New Yorks, not the LAs, not these, but these new cities like Nashville that are developing are really developing rapidly. They're developing by developers primarily, and they are attracting a certain socioeconomic status and basically worker, and are kind of stuck in addressing the larger poverty issues in that city or in that area. So let's talk about quickly affordable housing, because we can't skip over that. I just did this chart to give you an idea of what is going on with affordable housing. Most of us know this, but basically we've got this AMI. I don't know if you know, that's how they measure what people can afford. So if you're at 100% AMI, which is average median income, let's say I'm at that, I should be able to, in 2020, pay $2,000, about 30% of my salary on my rent, and then in today I have to pay about $2,400. If I'm at 80% of that, and it follows. So we have the mayor's office, Metro, estimates that we need 53,000 more units by 2030 of 80% AMI or lower. And only 2% of the approximately 7,000 existing units in downtown Nashville meet this threshold. And downtown is really important in this discussion. That's from the mayor's office as well. This was shocking to me. We have net migration from Davidson County for all the hype around everybody, the 100 people moving to Nashville. Well, guess what? There's actually people leaving Davidson County. I don't have the correlation of this, but I think this is highly related to the fact that the city is not livable anymore. It's not affordable anymore. So there's a shocker of piece of information. Transportation and childcare are really important sort of foundational elements of all of this. If you give me a $22 an hour job, but I don't have a car or I have 3 kids, you still haven't solved the problem for me. So all approaches towards sustainable livelihoods and sustainable living in Nashville have to really think about this. Childcare is a thing for everybody. It kind of spans wealth, background, everything. But of course, those in poverty and those, trying to get out are most affected, but all of us are in some way. And the reports coming out of various research institutions are saying there is so much lost opportunity because people say no to jobs and things like that because of childcare. So it's pretty remarkable. So that's another thing we have to sort for. Now, just trying to, make sure I've covered my gaps in the research around, the Chamber does a vital signs. I don't know if you know this. It's really another useful and important report. I'm just trying to get us all up to speed on all the work that's done in the city. Anyways, vital signs says that we'll have too many people of the low wage jobs and not enough for the high wage jobs. We already know that. We already see that. Amazon comes here, Oracle comes here, whoever comes here, they import workers. They do not hire local workers. That might be fine and dandy, like, okay, lots of smart people come to town, whatever, but it's not great for changing this issue of living wages and development of our city. And just educating people and sending them to community college is not solving that problem either. So we need something else. And it's not an easy solution, but it's something we got to think about. Yeah. Okay, so what is equitable development? It's kind of a buzz phrase. This comes out of Harvard. It's basically an approach to development that reduces disparities while fostering places that are healthy, vibrant, and diverse. I feel like this speaks a lot to our mission, but basically it's when you develop a city with everyone in mind and not just, the financing of it. This is just best practices. You can read this later. So this is my sort of approach to this. Whenever we hear in the news or we hear in council or whatever of a new project such as the East Bank, these are the kinds of questions we get to ask. Who is impacted by this and how? So how are poverty wage folks impacted by this development? Who will be employed and where will they come from? How will the development be paid for? The financing structure of these developments are really crucial to who gets benefit from it. So if it's a housing development and the developers say, look, we got to make a 10% profit or we might some percent profit, and so we cannot allow for this much affordable housing, that's going to really determine, how many affordable housing units are in that development. And then transportation, how do you get there? Who can get there, reliably? And then childcare. So the mayor's, there's a whole part of this that's kind of blocked at the top, but the mayor's office did a visioning document. I don't know if you all heard this, but I think it's important for the commission to know about it. There's a whole section on commitment to equity. It's a visioning document, so not a lot of concrete things. East Bank is just a great example for us to look at when we're talking about equitable development. Here is a big project, hasn't been built out yet. This is like 300 acres. Plenty of opportunity downtown, plenty of opportunity to develop Nashville in a powerful mixed income opportunity giving way. The report is really dedicated to equity, really great ideas and visions shared here, but some major takeaways. It talks a lot about affordable income housing. It says that people want an alternative to downtown, the Gulch and Green Hills. It also mentions that the private market is the way that this is going to get funded, but it cannot be the only way because we need some intentional implementation and some accountability along the way. So this is a place where I think the commission can really play a part, is that transparency and accountability. And many organizations are involved in this, and the mayor's office and everyone is already providing that, but I just think that there's an opportunity for us to really bring a separate perspective. These are some great questions that come straight from the plan. So again, the the focus is good and the focus is real. This is from the Affordable Housing Task Force, but again, nothing concrete because I think a lot of it is what the deal looks like, what the financing looks like. The final quote from this that I think is valuable is, again, that we have to pause with each new phase to confirm that the vision concepts are being followed and touch base with Nashvillians. So the point is that there's all these visions that have been outlined in this document, but are we going to stop and make sure that those are coming true as the deals become real? Okay. Really quickly, Sycamore. So by the way, do we talk about the East Bank without talking about the stadium? Yes or no? I'd say probably no. They're both going to be in the same spot. So very quickly on the stadium, here's the math. It's going to cost $2.2 billion for the new stadium. $500 million is going to come from the state. $700 million is from the Titans, and $1 billion from Nashville. These are the ways that they plan on funding that. That is a hefty, hefty chunk, my friends. Okay. I'll gloss through this, but basically the most important thing I want to share here is that the share of direct subsidization of stadiums has decreased over time since the 80s, but this stadium reverses that trend. This stadium makes it about, I think, 68%, whereas stadiums generally are getting 25% locally funded. So just something to be aware of. This gives you an idea of what that change is around. So you're seeing that Nashville's chunk is that maroon color is our local chunk of the payments versus other cities. Again, I'm just reminding us of these questions. Who's going to get, one of the claims a lot around stadiums is employment. Turns out employment, again, it's those low wage jobs. And when I talk about that, what am I saying? What's the alternative? Great question. I'm thinking, how do we get jobs that are living wages, that have trajectory for increasing, that give people stability stability. So if you start at 22, if you start at 28, 26, and you can grow from there and actually get out of any cycle that you're in that will be generational often, what would that look like? Now, obviously, the fun response or the kind of lazy response is like, well, there's some great manufacturing jobs that start that way, and in 90 days they give you benefits, and in 90 days they increase your salary. Well, if it's downtown, I don't know if manufacturing's an option, but that's what we kind of need to be thinking about when we're thinking about how we're going to create a Nashville that's here for everyone. The last thing I'll say is that our favorite cities, my favorite cities in the world, Berlin, New York, et cetera, are very mixed income cities. That started to change, but that's what creates the creativity and beauty of a thriving city. So those are just my thoughts and research, the research overview. Now, what are the suggested actions? I suggest we get involved. There's a lot of meetings around there. There's a lot of agencies created. I think we can meet with the Planning Commission and just learn more and support whatever efforts they have towards equity. I think we can be included. If you go to the East Bank visioning document, a ton of our partner agencies are named. We're not in that. That feels like a gap to me, but I'd love to hear from you all. And then really being the voice for some of those critical questions that I highlighted earlier. Who's impacted? How will wages change? What's another creative solution to this that can be financed? Metro owns a lot of that land, and the report that they put out really, really strongly urges that they use their part of that land to use really interesting financing to do affordable housing. So just making sure we keep an eye on that and that they follow those recommendations. So thank you so much. I hope that this wasn't all just redundant for you, and I'd love to hear if there are any thoughts. I'm going to change my spot.
What stage are we at when it comes to the budget process? What's been approved? What's not been approved? Where are we at?
Great question. I'm not going to be a great expert on this, but I believe that the stuff that I put about the math has largely been decided, like the change from 6% to 7%, that kind of stuff. But other than that, that's on the stadium. But on East Bank, I mean, the way I understand it is it's all still in the works. It's all, and it could be like multiple decades of work. So it could pass this mayor and go to the next, and et cetera, et cetera. But, and again, that's why I keep talking about the financing, because some of it is so dependent on outside sources of funding. And so those discussions and those negotiations are probably happening. But I don't know of anything that's come to council on.
No, nothing has been, has been voted on as of yet.
Right now, it's still like, they're still trying to have meetings and still trying to be inclusive, but at the same time stuck between trying to do what the city wants and what the numbers require. Go ahead.
There we go. Thank you so much for this presentation and for bringing this to the commission. It was really useful and informative. It definitely seems like something that we would want to have a role in and a voice in. So many of our conversations have centered around this issue, and it's kind of the heart of what Nashville's going through. So thank you, and looking forward to hearing how we can find our place in this discussion.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I think the main thing is to get into the conversation and really, again, the thing that racked my brain and really I talked to urban planners, I talked to architects, I talked to the firms that were involved, I've talked to firms in Europe, is this issue about the wages and what are the jobs. So if I'm a single mom, which I am, but if I'm a single mom, I'm living 6 blocks north of East Bank or 12 blocks north of East Bank, and you bring a coffee shop at $15 an hour, and I'm not saying this is how it's going to go, that's not going to work for me. That financial reality is not going to work for me. And so how do we get people really, and I don't know, I don't have the answer. I mean, manufacturing comes with a lot of problems. So that's what I've been looking at and talking to people to try to figure out. Yeah, sorry, did somebody else want to say something? Yes.
I was just going to ask, so for these suggested actions, how would we go about this? Just looking at the first one with meeting with the Planning Commission, would that be a couple of us? Would it be everybody at once? How does that look?
I think that's an excellent question. That could go a variety of ways. Probably preliminarily, a group of us, a couple of us could go and talk with the planning commission, just to introduce what our interests are, whatever. Sometimes we invited people to come actually to our commission meetings and talk to us about that, and that might be interesting. I don't know, Davey, where you stand on that, but we could have a couple of experts come and discuss. Yeah.
Can you use your microphone? You turn your microphone.
Where more than one of you goes at a time, you're allowed to go on field trips, and those aren't subject to the Open Meetings Act requirements. But I'm not sure if you are advocating positions and discussions with Planning Commission. That might be a gray area, and I don't want any of you to be caught off guard. So I would recommend, if you're going to do that, notice it as a public meeting that the public could attend, and you'd have to coordinate that with the Planning Commission, of course. But I don't want any of you to ever be on my watch violating the Open Meetings Act. Now, if you were visiting the actual construction site or something where you're not actually discussing your positions and things, I think that's permitted. But this I'm just concerned this could evolve into more than just a field trip.
I initially was thinking I would reach out to the ED, Kempf, Lucy Kempf, I think, and just introduce myself.
If it's just one of you, that's fine. But if more than one goes, I would recommend.
Yeah, otherwise we could invite her here.
With notice of that meeting.
Yeah, we can invite some people here. Yes, sir.
I'm still sort of wrapping my head around sort of what our role in this is, and certainly I've had an opportunity to read what's in the press, and I have to say I'm probably less educated about it than I need to be. But I personally would find it very helpful if we could invite a representative of the Planning Commission, somebody from the Civic Design Center, somebody from Stand Up Nashville or some community-based organization, and perhaps somebody from the Sycamore Institute to sort of maybe spend 15 minutes talking about their principal issues, just really for purposes of educating us, and then I think we really need to wrap our heads around what role can we play in this very important public decision process. I don't really know what that is right now.
Yeah, definitely a panel like that would be ideal, I think. Again, there have been several of these panels, but I don't think they would necessarily say no to a new audience that would ask new and maybe new angles on the question. So I think that's something we can pursue, Davey,
Well, I'd just like to say one of the things I think this commission could do is to do all of what Irwin just said, but then I think you may be faced with how can you be the advocate for those folks who don't have a voice at the table. If anybody's familiar with that area, that's been an area that's been industrial/residential area for the last 40, 50 years of people at or below the poverty line. This development will definitely displace them. So, and you can't look at this without looking at the stadium also, because I think a lot of the developers' decisions will be based on that, and that they both feed off of each other. So that's just one way, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and we should talk about how to include that voice. And the reason I included the stadium is just because I don't want to be a naysayer or anything like that. I'm trying to be mostly neutral about these decisions and just present the data. But that is $1 billion of local money that could address a lot of things. So I think it is worthwhile for the commission to really look at this. And not to say that others have not done a great job on it. I think they are, but just with our mission, we get to do it as well. So I think we can probably pursue that, maybe having that panel discussion, bringing in some of those voices that Davey was talking about as a next step. And I think that would do it.
How soon would you like for us to schedule? So
you probably, we're getting into those months that people are busy in. But, I could be prepared for a November meeting. I don't know if they could come to a November meeting.
Well, if you tell me, we can find out about that. And just so our next meeting is November the 7th, which is the day before the election. And I'm just throwing that out that we
Yeah.
you might want to, as a commission, move that to the next week.
Just the meeting to the next
Just
week.
the meeting to the next week. Because
Okay.
we, first of all, we won't be able to come over here.
Yeah.
So we'll have to find somewhere else to go. And a couple of commissioners have already said that they would not be at that meeting because of election duties.
So as a side note, as a tangent here, can everyone take a look at your calendars really quickly and just say whether the 7th or the 14th aligns better with what you're up to that week? This is enough notice that I think we could sort this out. Say again. November, yes, ma'am.
I'm good with either.
Okay. Either?
The 14th.
Okay.
Yeah.
14th? Okay. You can't. Anybody else? You can do either. Okay. You cannot do the 14th. Okay.
I was just
Keep it at
putting it
the
out
7th.
as a choice.
Who did you hear? Do you have someone that's not going to be able to come on the 7th?
Yes, Pratik's already said he can't come.
Yeah, you guys are gonna be busy. So we have 3 that can't come on the 17th, and we have 7 and 2 that can't come on the 14th. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Then I guess we can go for the 14th because we have less people that will be absent.
Excuse me a minute. Will you say that? Look, Ashley has something pertinent to the East Bank thing.
So I got notice, I think this morning it was announced of a special called meeting of the Planning Commission this Thursday. That's October the 6th at 3:30. Are you already?
No, is this a public meeting or?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it says, let me flip my phone so I can see it the bigger way. So this is this Thursday at 3:30, special called meeting with this being the only agenda point. So it's a request to amend the downtown community plan to adopt Imagine East Bank vision plan on various parcels of yada yada, the land, and to update the street collector plan, et cetera. So all the amended things for it. And so I don't know what process that is sort of triggering with this special called meeting, but it's using, amend to adopt the plan.
Yeah, and the plan is so vague and open. I mean, in a great way. Like, they're like, we need bike roads. I mean, the things they're envisioning are huge. I do recommend you going to that document because it's gorgeous. I mean, it's a dream come true in terms of bike lanes and new roads. They want to connect Murfreesboro Pike with Lebanon Pike. And so it is a vision document. So if they're approving a vision document, I don't see anything shocking about that, but I'll take a look on it. Thank you so much, Ashley. Okay, on the meeting, are we good? We're going to lose 2 on the 14th and 3 on the 7th. Are we clear to go with the 14th? Is that all right, Charles? For November.
Okay.
Just because of numbers. That's it. Okay. Great. That'll be, so yeah, if they're willing to come on the 14th, fabulous. If not, we can push it. Okay, awesome. Then I think, unless there's any other conversation around this issue, yep, Dan.
What are you going to be doing to prepare for that November 14th meeting?
Me personally, I have all my questions. I've read all these documents. I'm happy to share this PowerPoint with you. There's a lot more in it, and it's very word heavy. I tried to pull out the stuff. It also has all the links, so you guys can go through that, and it'll just like make you think about, well, what about this or what about that, and you can come at it that way. And obviously, we can't talk directly. We will have executive committee meetings along the way. I believe we're going to try to have one this month. You guys can come to that for us to have a discussion. I can't discuss with you one-on-one. You can always discuss.
Point of order.
Yes.
You have to send the report to staff.
Yes.
And staff
Yes,
will
clearly.
disseminate the report.
Sorry, I never send you anything. Davey will get Davey already has the PowerPoint. He will share it with, Barbara will share it with you all. Point of order.
Derek.
Yes. Lest I mislead you. And so, yeah, no one-on-one. So anyways, and we can talk about the executive committee meeting before that if we have one. Yes, Kosar.
This is a quick, I don't know if this is a bylaw question, but I know in the past, especially during quarantine time, that there was a virtual component to the meetings. I was wondering, is there still an option potentially if folks tend, or say you can't make a meeting or you're away out of town or something? Is there a way to call into a meeting or?
No. So that was a special.
I think Derek's got a side of this here.
You can call into a meeting and listen, but you can't participate in terms of the discussion or voting.
It won't be like we have quorum. Basically, the governor made a special provision when it was quarantine for us to be able to have a visual.
Correct, where you can do that virtually. But I would also suggest if you're unable to attend and you have issues, questions, not expressing your opinion, but if you have questions, direct those to staff and let staff make sure those questions are asked to be addressed at whoever is presenting to the body. Okay? And if you have any questions of your circumstances individually, you may reach out to me and I'll try to counsel you and give you an opinion.
Yeah, great question. And no, sadly. But yeah, do use the staff. When I was in here last month, I said, Davey, these are my questions. These are my concerns. And he was able to speak to those, I think. Okay, then I am happy to move on. I don't think we need a motion for this. It's basically, do we need a motion to invite these people? Okay, so we'll just try to get them here. And in the meanwhile, you guys will get materials from the staff on this issue to think about. Okay, great. Then I'm good to move forward with the old business, the procurement board appointment. I was not here for that last discussion, but Davey, can you give us an update?
Tomorrow night is voted on, and it will go before the committee prior to the council meeting. I plan on being there for that. And then there's also a couple other things on the council agenda tomorrow that has interest with what we do here as the commission.
Okay, great. Yeah. It's always fun to join Davey at the council meetings if you've got an hour on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. So, Tuesday night, please do come to council meetings. It helps. And then strategic plan. I know that this was brought up last meeting, and we're going to talk about basically, I think some of you all did send Davey, I don't know about this, but I think some of you all maybe did send Davey your thoughts or your ideas for focus on the strategic plan. If you haven't, definitely do. And I don't know what the next steps are on that, though, Davey.
Barbara, how many comments did you get?
None.
Okay, I've got two from two commissioners in regard to that.
And mine.
Yes, you and
Okay.
you and Commissioner Burton.
Okay, awesome. So, and yeah, so that, get those in, and then what's the next step for that? Is that going to be during these executive committee meetings that we're going to start?
What was the dates?
We're in the final process of trying to assess the consensus for the executive board meeting. Those 3 meetings, correct?
Yes. So, how many responses did you get?
3.
So respond, executive committee, and we'll get those on the books and start getting down to work. Okay, on that, this is our time for public comments. I don't see anyone present, so we can move forward. Announcements, I do have an announcement that's just important for me to say. I just want to say that I am of Iranian heritage, and there are probably 2,500 to 3,000 Iranians, though the census says there's only 1,800. And the things that are happening in Iran are very important to the population of Nashville that has Iranian heritage. And it's important to shine a light on that because there's very little news coverage on it and very little sustained attention on it. It's in the second week. And last night they ransacked 6 universities. They're shooting in broad daylight. There are testimonies of a 15-year-old girl being raped in a southern city and all over. And they have locked people into their universities and not let them out. They're doing everything they can to squash what is quite a brave and courageous attempt to gain rights, particularly for women. So it's important to me that I use whatever opportunity and microphone I have to shine light on that as it kind of passes us by over here. So that's mine. Any other announcements?
This weekend, we staff participated in the Celebrate Nashville Cultural Festival. We've been an annual sponsor for years, and they get 50,000 folk out of the 50 or so identified ethnicities that reside here in Nashville. It was a great experience. Tomorrow night at the council, there's public comment around the River Chase development. I don't know how much of you all are familiar with the River Chase development. It is at North 1st Street. Before it turns into Dickerson Road, there had been a development of low-income to workforce housing, and it is finally, after over a year and a couple of failed benefits agreements, the contractor now is saying that they've submitted a B plan that will not include the number of affordable housing that was mentioned at first. Out of 1,115 proposed units, only 215 of those would be affordable. But when you say affordable, that starts at 80% AMI. What Nashville needs is 30 and 40 and 50% AMI. When you hear affordable housing, it's not the people who are that's not going to be the people who are actually being displaced. Of teachers, firefighters, police officers, they qualify for affordable housing. When you look at the salaries and you look at what it means to say 80% of AMI for a family of 4 is $65,000. And so when you look at that, for one person it's $46,000. That's 80%. Those are not the units that Nashville is in short supply of. And those are the ones that we started losing almost a decade ago. The affordable housing crisis did not reach a public crescendo until it became the 80%, 90% who could no longer live in the city. And so most of the low-income workforce housing stock is gone. And so now the falling apart of the River Chase deal may actually take on another move. So tomorrow at council is open comment, and it's a great time if you've never sat through a council meeting, particularly when I always like listening to public comment because you hear the people that are affected talk about it, and then I record what they say and try to research behind it. But it's be a great, boring education to come and just listen and see how that process has worked. Because Sean Parker, the councilman from that district, for months has refused to present to council until the community benefits agreement was worked out between the developers, and at first it was Stand Up Nashville. That fell through, and then the Urban League came in. And so now he's being pushed to a point where at some point he's going to have to do something, and that goes down tomorrow at council.
Yeah, what happens here will set precedent in a lot of other situations. So I think it's really important. Was there something else? Okay. Yes, Kosa.
So you probably have seen this on the news. So earlier, a few months ago, the governors of Texas and Florida have been essentially trafficking migrants to different parts of the country, primarily to Democratic states and to D.C. And there was a bus that came to Chattanooga a couple months ago that organizations on the ground were able to do some rapid response. And then I think 2 weeks ago, there was a flight from Florida that stopped in Nashville in transit to New Jersey. And just wanted to kind of just flag that that we'll probably see an increase in migrants being, shipped off from these states, and that, when they do come to Nashville, that we, as a community, come together and welcome these migrants. And the other announcement is just October 11th, obviously, is voter registration deadline. If you're not registered yourself, make sure to register and get your communities to also register to vote.
Thank you for that.
Chair, I got just two more. One, we also emailed a survey. We're being asked by Metro to list the commission by gender and race. So we sent out a survey to ask that you all would fill that out. If you could please fill that out and turn it back. I personally don't want to make assumptions for anybody as it relates to how they want to identify. So we are we've gotten, how many?
Yes, I can't remember.
And Metro is telling us, where's your stuff? So if you please would do that. The other Wednesday, October 19th, we do the mobile diversity tour with the graduating cadets of the police academy. I don't know, 5-6 years ago, we set up, this was a compromise agreement with the training of the cadets to try to immerse them in 4 communities in Nashville. And for the last 2 years, it hadn't been mobile, but we're going back to mobile on the 19th. We'll start in the morning, 7:30, is that right? 7 at the Islamic Center of Nashville. Then we move from there to Casa Azafran, the immigrant and the refugee community. Then we go to the Playdan Bar for the LGBTIA plus community, and then we're tentatively scheduled to go to TSU for the African American community. I would invite, if you all have time, to take part in this. It's set up to help each other understand each other better. We facilitate conversations. We have presenters sometimes who do things to create conversation around what the other needs to know about the other. And it'd be really educational. You would get to interact with the recruits yourself. And it's stark to see just the demographic of the recruits that are coming here, that I think it may be interesting for you to see yourself. October 19th. Starts at 7 and it goes to about 5. You can pick us up at any point if you don't want to do the whole day. We start, like I said, at the Islamic Center of Nashville for the Muslim community. And just to use that as an example, sometimes we're disrespectful because of what we don't know. So for a police officer to answer a call, and they can see if they're aware that this is a Muslim family, and say that there is no life danger, nothing like that, they'll take their shoes off if they're going to go up in those people's house. And so that's the sensitivity that we're trying to bring, of finding out about how to be respectful with the LGBTQ community. Trans people who are in transition often are presenting different than their license. It is no law requirement to have to respond to you as your license. So how do you create sensitivity to allow a police officer to say, call you miss when your license still says Mr.? And so I think it's these small aggressions that, if we can raise sensitivity, can often build larger bridges toward a lot of the larger issues that happen within these communities. So Barbara's been doing this religiously. And in fact, we just did a training last week with Metro Social Services, who asked us to come in to help them with sensitivity toward LGBTQIA communities, which I found that surprising. And what shows through is so often we lead with our religious convictions. And when you work in a job that receives government funds, your religious convictions really don't mean much in the service that you're providing. And so I want to thank Barbara for that. It was great. And I can tell when you have good meetings, it's when it's over, everybody just doesn't run out and leave. Everybody pans around out front. Then they stood around out front in front of the building, probably in excess of an hour after that. But that's some of the work that we do. And I think it's some of the work that, as we go forward, we like for you all, as you have time, to become involved in that with us, because it really would expand our ability to do that. I and Marissa Richmond, who's a woman of color, transgender, who used to be chairperson of this committee, and a transgender woman named Olivia Cox, and myself were on the commission to talk about those issues, and it was well received by them, and they want us to come back and do it, which we kind of put it together in a strange way, but it's, I believe, when we talk about our mission, it's as simple as that, but it's also as important as what are the equity issues in this East Bank development, because our mission, I have to read it, to protect and promote the personal dignity, peace, safety, security, health, and general welfare of all people in Nashville and Davidson County. So as simple as this, but also as complex as the East Bank. I think that's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
I would just add quickly, last week was a stacked week. On Tuesday, we were with Metro Social Services. And then on Thursday, we were with Metro Arts. And we co-hosted a diversity, equity, and inclusion experience with Metro Arts, which, again, was very insightful. And Commissioner Stringer-Holmes, I appreciate your question about the schedule for the MDS, and so I will be sure to send an itinerary to each commissioner so that you can plan accordingly if you're able to join us. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, these are also great opportunities for us to learn some things too, and take them back into our communities and into our organizations and corporations, et cetera, because the fight for equity is everywhere. Okay, then this highly efficient meeting is ripe for adjournment. Who would like to put a motion forward for adjourning?
Motion adjourn.
Second? Great. Second. Any noes or abstentions? All right, fabulous. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.